Hello, people of St. Francis. Today is Friday, June 11th, and it's the feast of St. Barnabas. Barnabas was one of the later apostles and actually traveled with the Apostle Paul on missionary journeys. He participated in the Council of Jerusalem, and it's speculated he was actually named by, I think it was Tertullian, as being the actual author of the Epistle to the Hebrews. And today's gospel reading for this feast day really reflects the spirit of Barnabas' work. It's from the 10th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew. Jesus said to the 12, "As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. Take no gold or silver or copper in your belts, no bag for your journey, or 2 tunics or sandals, or a staff, for laborers deserve their food. Whatever town or village you enter, find out who in it is worthy, and stay there until you leave. As you enter the house, greet it. If the house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your feet as you leave that house or that town." 7 or 8 short sentences here really sum up so much of what Jesus expected of his people for the sake of evangelism and community outreach, as we would call it now. And we should consider how much more effective those things would be if the church on a global scale took Jesus just a little more seriously. Although I suppose the same could be said for almost any issue. Jesus simply tells his followers to go from town to town to spread the good news, to tell people that the kingdom of God has come near. He doesn't suggest putting aside 70 cents a day to drop ship them Bibles. He doesn't suggest that the disciples should make signs and placards to inform the townspeople that they are going to roast in the afterlife. He doesn't suggest that the disciples should take on roles or influence roles of political leadership to legislate the people into being Christians. Quite the opposite, Jesus tells them to serve and work amongst the people. They aren't there to peddle the gospel like a dime store trinket. They are there to show the worthiness of their witness through work and service, and are to do such a good job that they are fed and sheltered because of it. He makes it clear that the gospel is not supposed to be an act of commerce. He says, "You received without payment, give without payment." And if the people don't want to hear it, the disciples are simply to shake the dust off their feet, to let their own peace return to them, and to leave humbly. Curiously, he doesn't suggest that the disciples should debate or argue, or to steal the peace from the other people. They are to be left in their own peace as well. How much more effective could we be as Christians if this is how we operated in the world? How much more charitably would the rest of the non-believing world view our faith and the things that we say and the things that we do if this is how we practiced evangelism? If we served and worked with people without expecting payment, to count on acts of mutual goodness and charity, and to simply move on if they're not interested. Swaths of the more hardline Christian movement, I don't want to use the E word, they tend to suggest that if you don't properly convert non-Christians to Christians, that their blood is on your hands. I would argue much more strongly that if we introduce people to this very humble servant God from Nazareth, and that we do it through such a broken witness or a cloudy witness, or one that doesn't show unparalleled and unconditional love, and instead shows ugliness or pride or triumphalism, that we wind up with much more blood on our proverbial hands that's much harder to wash off. Jesus made this simple enough for us, but we humans are pretty good at complicating things with our own ideas. You know, as the very definition of what it means to be a Christian continues to ebb and flow into the 21st century, it is not just those who haven't heard of Jesus who we'll be encountering. In fact, I'd say that there are very few corners of the world where people haven't heard about Jesus. Sometimes where people have perhaps heard about Jesus way too much from folks who should perhaps be invoking his name just a little less. In fact, we will encounter those people a whole lot. We will encounter those who have heard of Jesus and want to use his name to teach an exclusive religion, or who want to use his name to gain or retain power and influence. We will meet, as we travel from our own literal or metaphorical town to town, those who have met Jesus, shaped him in their own image, and used him to assure themselves of their own righteousness and of their own superiority. We will, much to our own chagrin, meet people who see Jesus the same way the Hebrews saw the Messiah, as an unbeatable military leader who has come to set his people in a position of authority to rule over others. It's funny how little has changed in 2,000 years. And the fact is, some of these folks we'll meet are teachable. I don't believe in hopelessness. I may have a misanthropic streak, but I still think the Orioles are going to win another World Series, which hasn't happened since I was about 9. So some of these folks can hear from us. And when we encounter these folks, we should embrace them and work with them and serve them. But when we encounter those who aren't, it's time to walk away. We need to shake the dust off our own shoes. We may want to try to convict them of where they are, but that's not our job. That's God's job. Our job is to continue to be the hands and feet of Christ on this earth. So do we better serve this humble God by arguing and debating those who got it wrong, or by continuing to serve those who were perhaps harmed by them, by continuing to show unparalleled love and unconditional love? And if the latter of those folks are unreachable or unteachable, we can't affect change in them. Our efforts are a fool's errand, and we will satisfy our own egos and our own desires to win an argument, even if it's only in our own head. But we won't actually affect change. In fact, going too far down that path can often cause us to lose our own peace. And there's a reason that Jesus said to the disciples, to allow your peace to return to you. If we lose that, then we lose the center of who we are. But if we hold on to that peace, if we hold on to the model that was laid out for us and learn to navigate the often choppy waters of 21st century Christianity, we won't lose sight of the fact that affecting change only comes from serving and loving and building and rebuilding, without expectation, without condition, without payment, and without pride, but in love and simplicity. Hope to see you guys on Sunday. Thanks.